Please remain seated. The show will begin in 3, 2...
Like a Hellcat.
After my visit with my grandfather at his apartment, I spent several weeks trying to scheme my way into searching the archives for further details on these cursed film reels. But I had to keep my head down low and be smart about this. And a part of me didn't want to believe that an old beloved kids cartoon would harm a human soul. But there had to be a reason behind these incidences, and just how was any of it possible? The studio had me working late shifts as usual, and this particular night at around 8 o'clock I had to be careful and cautious when avoiding the security cameras. I was pretty equipped in knowing how to disable them due to my tech expertise, but I also knew how to alter footage when need be. The security was less than adequate, and it's not like the guards were paid enough to deal with trespassers. They were lazy bums, and quite frankly most of the time we had a massive turnover of them, because according to most claims, they were frightened away by something that couldn't be logically explained. I made it past the second floor of the studio where my office was located, and I reached a long set of stairs that went down 3 floors. I eventually came across this metal door with a sign above that said, "Confidential, do not enter." My curiosity, of course, got the better of me. The door, however, required a code to unlock. Just where was the code? I searched the entire bottom floor. There were several tunnels around the area. This is where things got a little disturbing. Each tunnel was marked with a number and contained a shrine to Steamboat Willie, well decorated in ink stains with various offerings scattered around them. I'm sure you're probably thinking how bizarre that is, but mind you, I wasn't expecting there to be a cave with a whole labyrinth of tunnels near some top secret room. I stepped inside the first tunnel. It was pretty large, and the statue of Willie stood at the center. There was also some old crates and a desk in the right corner of the room. Lined up on the wall above it was sharp tools, and there was also a leather book as black as pitch. It looked satanic, also judging by the contents inside. I regret reading those pages. I wish I would have stopped myself as soon as I came across the gory sketches, and there were also notes attached on those pages, too. It was then my eyes caught a glimpse of a pentagram on the floor that had what looked to be human skulls, and in the center of that pentagram was a bloody, painted picture of Willie himself. Oh my God. What the hell was going on here? How long has that been there? I shut the book and placed it inside my bag. I then picked up an old oil lamp that was still well lit. I scanned my surroundings further, checking behind every nook and cranny for anything else I may find useful from the investigation. There were other notes tucked away inside crates and behind them. The first one I read was dated October 31st, 1928, Halloween. The person who wrote this also worked for the animation studio. It was a diary entry. It read, "I am overworked and underpaid. This company has taken terrible advantage of my services, and I am forced to follow instruction from my supervisors, despite the atrocious living conditions for us animators. They have done nothing but lie to us and trick us into being their slaves, to appease their profit. They wanted to innovate their creation, whom promised them all wealth and a better life, as long as they would keep him fed. Ink and human souls are what gives him strength, and if sacrifices aren't made to keep him at bay, one of us may be next." What? I blinked upon reading that over again a few times. I searched for another page and soon picked it up, reading that one as well. It said, "We should have been nicer to George. George didn't do anything wrong, and we were all at his mercy. George wants his revenge. He wants to make us all his good little obedient mice, and he will destroy this company just like he swore. We are all doomed if we stay here at the studio, and George will not rest till he's killed us all. Now who the hell was George? And just what happened to him? I felt cold all of a sudden. I started to break into the sweat, my heart racing. My nose began to bleed, and I no longer felt alone in that room. I ran out of there and I got back in my car. I then sped back to my apartment. And when I got home, my blood ran cold. In the center of my room was my grandfather's projection screen plastered to my wall, with the old projector, and sitting on the coffee table was a stack of film reels of the old Steamboat Willie cartoons, with white tape on top written in fresh blood that said, "Play me." I tried calling my grandfather, but he never picked up. I was worried sick. I wasn't sure what to do. It wasn't like him to not answer his phone. I pulled the leather book out of my bag, and I sat down in my chair in front of the projector. The name George kept swimming around in my brain, and I examined the first film reel. The film reel was marked November 12th, 1929, The Return of Captain Willie, Episode 1, Willie's Next Adventure. I reluctantly inserted the film reel and turned on the projector. I then began to watch the screen. As described, as before, by my grandfather's own experience, the same thing happened. The screen was static for a few minutes, and there were minor glitches here and there. Then the steamboat was seen chugging along, and Willie was at the wheel, steering. He was whistling a cheery tune while tapping his foot to the rhythm, and the frame then shifted to Minnie on the lower deck in the back, peeling potatoes and placing them in the bucket. She seemed really sad, her head lowered. The most disturbing part about this was the fact she had shackles around her ankles, heavy, ponderous chains that made it difficult for her to walk. And she looked hungry, too. This isn't anything like my grandfather described when he watched it. It didn't make sense. What was going on? I paused the projector and examined the shot of Minnie a bit closer. She wore a wedding ring. Interesting. Also on the wall beside her was a newspaper clipping. I was able to read the font. The headline read, "George King and Marcia Harris become newlyweds. Date August 13th, 1927. The text beneath the headline, not all of it was clearly visible, but it said, "George King, lead animator, joins Mr. Walt Disney's production team, and everyone's favorite mouse, Steamboat Willie, is currently in development. Release date has yet to be confirmed." There's definitely some direct connection, I thought to myself. I hit play again, and I continued watching. Minnie had stopped peeling and cutting potatoes, and she still held the knife in her hand. She sighed, turning toward the direction of Willie's whistling. The screen then glitched once again, and then cut to black. Then after a couple minutes, the screen shifted to Minnie, tiptoeing behind Willie, trying to move as slowly and as quietly as possible. And then there is this dreaded pause. Willie's head turns to face her coldly. Subtitles pop up on the screen. Their mouths are moving, but there is no sound. "What are you doing?" With a quivering hand, Minnie angrily and nervously raises the knife. Her subtitles then pop up. "I can't do this anymore." Then another glitch. Willie then appears in front of her. His eyes now hollow, no pupils. He's now 10 feet tall, morphed, mutated. There is a loud, blood-curdling crack from Willie's neck as he lowers himself to Minnie's height. Another glitch. Then I see him reach down with one bony claw and lift Minnie up by her neck as he nearly chokes her to death. Then there is sound. Something demonic. Willie's voice then says lowly and maliciously,
"I am your prophet, and you will obey me."
Then the screen cuts to black as a woman is heard screaming. I quickly removed the film reel from the projector. What the hell did I just watch? I couldn't watch any more that night, so I went to bed. I was tossing and turning, shaking like a leaf. I couldn't drown the voices out of my head. I then dreamt of Willie. I woke up on the lower deck of the steamboat, and all was quiet. I couldn't find Minnie in any of the rooms on the bottom floor, so I went to the upper deck, and there was no sign of Willie. I went around the corner and saw the only lifeboat, strapped and covered, hoisted up by two ropes and beside it a single lever. Across from it a bunker or storage unit. I walked over to it. I hesitated. Should I go down there? I couldn't fight the urge, so I leaned forward and lifted the latch, pulling on both handles, then peering down the dark hole. I picked up a recently lit oil lamp. I then descended the steps. There was just crates and bags of corn and potatoes. Nothing unusual, except when I heard a woman sobbing uncontrollably. I followed the sound to Minnie huddled up against the right wall. She looked badly beaten and defeated. Captions appeared in front of me. Help me. This isn't who I am. Then another. He isn't what he seems. Then came a monstrous growl. I turned to see Willie step out of the shadows. He looked somewhat normal, but his eye sockets were hollow and blood streamed down from them. He had this sickly, twisted grin, and he tilted his head, offering a bony claw. And then his subtitles popped up. Join me. That's all it said. I just collapsed and woke up in my bathroom the next morning. I groaned and slowly stood up to look at my reflection in the mirror. I lost my shit in that moment. Written 3 times in fresh blood on the bathroom mirror were the words, "The mouse is out. The mouse is out. The mouse is out."